a little bit different in that it's got a peep sight. It's flip up peep sight. He said the buck had come over the hill and he'd almost run into him and blew snot all over him.
Kobe here with Rugged Tactical, where every trigger pull tells a story and responsible gun ownership is a way of life. I have a very special guest today. This is my dad, and we've done a video already. The first video that we did was of your 270. Up here on the wall, we have actually 4 guns. Before we dive into these guns, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Those guns I've inherited from my dad, and so they're very special to me, and they each have a little bit of a history. I was thinking back this week about the many times that we spent out hunting with guns like this, and those are the best times of my life. Literally, I enjoyed spending time with the family. It was like a family reunion to go out deer hunting.
You know, there's something about being outside in nature, seeing beautiful country, God's country, being able to go out and shoot, whether it be hunting or going to like we used to go to Muzzle Loader shoots, little competitions, or just spending time together as a family. I mean, that's what I remember growing up, is going and doing those things, and those are memories that will always be a part of me. So you inherited all 4 of these guns.
Yeah.
The top one, I believe, is Grandpa Dalton's.
There's a gun that we used in muzzleloader shoots, so it looks a lot older than the other ones, but it's not near as old.
Yeah.
And it's a muzzleloader shooting gun that we used for muzzleloader matches. We used to shoot a lot down in Price, have shot different places around.
And then the 3 other guns. Let's take them one at a time, I think, off the wall, and you can tell us a little bit about them. Okay, so that is a 30-30 lever action, and it has it's a little bit different in that it's got a peep sight. It's flip up peep sight. And this gun was owned by a guy named Cowley that lived in Emery County. He traded that gun to my grandpa. So my grandpa owned it, and then Dad loved this gun, and he loved the 12-gauge shotgun that we'll show you later. And Grandpa Dalton, Loren Dalton was his name, had those 2 guns that Dad just loved, and so, but he wanted a different gun. He wanted a 30-06. So Dad bought a 30-06, traded it to him for these 2 guns, and that's how he came in possession of these 2 guns. As far as the guns on the wall, in order to be able to display not in a case,
right?
They've been basically rendered functionalist.
Yes,
meaning
right.
If you were to throw a shell in here, this gun is not going to go off.
Right.
The reason behind that, I think you and Grandpa did that, didn't you?
Yeah.
So that they could be displayed.
So we could display them,
and that so somebody could actually get a hold of them,
right,
and look at them. Not necessarily behind glass,
right,
or be in a safe or whatever, so that they could be out. Now, all 3 of these guns are over 100 years old. Yeah, this particular one was patented in 1894, but built in 1910. And if you turn it over, it's got a flip-up peep sight. Turn it over the other way. This ring is a saddle ring that they used to hook it to saddles with. A little saddle ring here. My mom had recorded a story where Dad had hooked it to a horse in the morning, and the horse flipped over or started bucking, went over backwards and broke the stock. So they wired up the stock to use that day, and then Grandpa Dalton, Loren Dalton, replaced the stock. So this gun's been through. That's why this stock looks a little different than the front stock. So it is this. So this stock has been replaced.
Yeah.
So this is not original.
Right.
And then the original would actually be a little bit lighter and probably even a little more worn.
Yeah, exactly.
The stock has been replaced because.
But this is really old. I mean, it's been a long time. This is at least 70, 80 years old, that stock. So.
Just here, I'll let you hold this for a sec. I'll just read it. So Matt Cowley, longtime resident in Cleveland, where Gerald was raised, had purchased a Winchester Model 1894, which is this gun, right? Lever action 30-30 caliber saddle gun with leather saddle scabbard. When Gerald was a young man, his dad Loren traded a horse to Matt for the rifle.
Oh, okay.
And Loren hunted with it for many years.
Yeah.
Right. The first year Gerald had a buck permit, either 15 or 16 years, he was able to go with his dad, hunt with Loren's cousins down to the LaSalle. Loren got his buck, then loaned the 30-30 to Gerald, who had been hunting with a .22 rifle. And so he got his first deer with a 30-30.
That's right.
So So Loren traded a horse actually to get this gun. And then Gerald actually got his first buck with this.
Yeah.
30-30.
Yep.
I don't know what kind of horse you'd trade for a gun.
I don't know.
I don't know if it was a colt. I don't know if it was an old horse or.
I have no idea. Nobody has talked about the horse, but they talk a lot about the gun.
So you've looked up the serial numbers.
Yes.
So,
uh-huh.
And so you placed this gun as being manufactured in 1910.
1910.
1910.
Yep.
So it is definitely.
Yeah.
It's 15 years
I can't
old.
do the math. Yeah. Yeah.
Which is pretty dang cool.
Yeah.
And it's been used as straight up legit Western gun.
Yeah.
Right?
And I honestly don't think I've ever shot it, but it's a cool gun, lever action. You know, it's like you used to see all the time in the Western movies.
You have a story.
I have one story about this gun. You'll see that this gun was a little bit different, and that here's the back sight, the front sight, and it's got this flip-up peep sight. And if you do it just right, it'll flip up. And I had an uncle whose name was Earl that had borrowed this gun from my dad, and my dad was making a deer drive on South Ridge in 9 Mile Canyon, above 9 Mile Canyon. And my dad run a buck right over the ridge where he knew Earl was. And so he just expected there to be a shot and a dead buck. And there was no shot. He waited, and there was no shot. And he went down there, and Earl was just flustered to death. He said the buck had come over the hill. Now, this is his words, not mine. He said the buck had come over the hill, and he'd almost run into him and blew snot all over him. Now that sounds bad, but that's how Earl talked.
Oh, wow.
And he could not get the gun to go off. And what they found out later was he was cocking the peep sight instead of cocking the hammer. And so that's always been a funny story that Dad has told about Earl cocking the peep sight on this thing. If it wouldn't have had a peep sight, he could have just shot from his hip and got that buck. But he was cocking the peep sight, and the gun wouldn't go off. And he never looked down enough to see what he was doing.
See what was going on. I can only imagine the adrenaline, right?
Oh, yeah.
That close, and you're
sitting
there
and a big buck,
and
like you said, blew snot all over him. So it was right there. It was literally, you almost ran into him. Anyway, so that's the story that I remember about this gun. And it's one of the funnest guns that I've ever owned, just because of the history of it and the age and stuff. So,
and that's pretty funny because that peep sight is right.
It's right there.
Right there, and so it's interesting.
It makes it. Gives us a good sight picture, that peep sight. Yeah, and I think it's sighted in for the peep sight, not for the back sight. So.
Do you know the history of this peep sight at all?
Not at all. Yeah. No, I don't know who installed it. Whether it was my dad that installed it or his dad. So.
Yeah.
Yep. Kind of an interesting thing because it doesn't really fit the gun from a history standpoint.
Yeah.
The peep sight is something more recent in terms of sighting. Probably a lot more accurate than the open sights that we used to have. Yeah.
It reminds me of something that Grandpa Dalton would have done, probably.
Yeah,
I
probably.
would be surprised if he put the peep sight on.
That doesn't surprise me. Yeah, I wish I could ask him, and I never did. So.
Yeah. But that is pretty funny. One of the first bucks that I shot at was a really decent sized buck, but we were hunting with muzzleloaders and with those little number 11 percussion caps, so they wouldn't go off a lot of times.
Yeah, exactly.
And so just cocking it and then snap, cocking it, snap, it's very frustrating. So I can only imagine what he felt like when he was trying to
kept cocking that peep sight and wouldn't go off.
Cocking the peep sight.
And the buck didn't stay around very long.
No,
he headed over the hill, but sure made Earl up flustered. And he was just a young kid at the time.
Yeah.
He's probably 16, 17.
Great rifle, great story. So I think we'll talk about the shotgun.
Okay, shotgun.
We know a little bit more about the shotgun than what we know about this one.
Grandpa owned the shotgun. I don't know where he got it from, but he used to hunt with it all the time, and Dad used to follow him around hunting pheasants and just really loved that gun. And so the day came when Grandpa wanted a 30-06, and Dad bought a 30-06 and traded him for these two guns, this shotgun, which is a Winchester Model, or Model 1897 12 gauge, and it was made in 1914.
Okay. Wow. So only 4 years after 4 years after this one.
It's an old gun. It's got a kick pad on it that's hard as a rock, and it's got a fairly long barrel. And when I got this gun, when I inherited it from my dad, I used to hunt ducks with it. And it was a long shooter. You sometimes didn't aim at a duck, you aimed at a flock of ducks and would knock a couple of them down out of it because it was such a long shooter. I was probably shooting it much further away than I should have, but it was a good shooting gun. I enjoyed it for several years before I got a newer shotgun and started hunting with that. It's got a plug in it now, so you can only put 3 shells in it, but it used to hold 5 shells when we used to hunt.
Can you
pheasants and stuff? Yep, there you go.
Let's see. Why would this come down like that?
Well,
I guess that's just the mechanism.
Because this is the magazine, and it flips the bullet down in there, and then it picks it up.
Okay.
It would pick it up from there and throw it in.
Okay.
It flips the expended shell out the side.
Out the side.
Yeah.
And then the new shell comes in
right
here.
Uh-huh.
And then it just forces.
Or if you wanted to just shoot one shell, you could open it up partially and slip the new shell in there.
Oh, like that.
And then
like that.
Put one shell in it. So we carry them without shells in them, and then when we go hunting, we go ahead and put a shell in the barrel.
Yeah.
And it'd be ready to go.
And then you can still load it through here.
Yep.
So you got 1 plus your 2 or whatever.
2 if you got a plug in it, and 3 if you 3 more if you don't have a plug. So we had to plug our guns for ducks because we could only have 3 shots. That is a great shooting gun.
And so you hunted with this gun?
I did for several years, hunting ducks and stuff. It got so that it wouldn't close all the way, so it had some mechanical problems. I didn't feel like it was worth fixing because by then I'd bought a new one, and but it was a great gun. Had good long reach on it. Boy, you could really knock the ducks out of the sky from way up there. And here's a little bit of an article on it. Winchester Model, 1897.
Oh, okay. So this is a shotgun. It's difficult to cover the Winchester Model 1897 without mention of its predecessor, the Model 1893. It was the first pump-action shotgun for both John Moses Browning and the Winchester Repeating Arms Company. Although ingenious in some ways and far handier than the Paris lever-action models 1887-1889, it was a flawed design and the shortest-lived of the Winchester shotguns. The 1893 could accept only 2 5/8 shot shells, as opposed to then new smokeless 2 3/4 shells. And if the action were open and the gun canted, the shell could literally fall off the carrier and out of the wide open top ejection port. More critically, the 1893's locking system was disengaged as soon as the firing pin was depressed. All these issues were corrected with Model 1897. The stock's length of pull was extended and its drop reduced. The receiver was strengthened, and the ejection port moved more to the receiver's right. An articulated plate was added to the carrier's right side to keep shells from falling out of inopportune moments. After the hammer fell, the slide had to be pushed forward a fraction of an inch before the gun could be unlocked. This was usually caused by the recoil of firing, and most shooters don't notice it even today. The bolt-in action slide could be manually unlocked via the action slide unlock pin centrally mounted in the rear of the receiver flat. The massive carrier was hinged at the rear and it cammed down with the retraction of the slide, unlocking the bolt. Then a new shell from the tubular unbarreled magazine dropped onto the carrier. Pushing the slide forward presented a new round to the chamber. The working parts were big and robust, and the gun proved to be extremely reliable, despite having only a single action bar for its slide on the left side. And it was fast and slick to operate. Initially offered in a solid frame, plain finished, $25, fancy finished with Damascus barrel, $60, and trap and pigeon guns with 30-inch or 32-inch full choke barrels. There was also a 26-inch barreled cylinder bore brush gun with a 4-round capacity rather than 5 magazine. A clever takedown mechanism employing an interrupted thread was introduced in 1898, as was the 20-inch barrel riot gun. The 16-gauge appeared in 1900, but only with a 2 5/8 chamber until it was lengthened to 2 3/4 in 1931. There were various tournament, special trap, and standard trap guns, but the 1897 gained much of its fame when the riot gun served as a basis for the U.S. Model 1917 trench gun, with the addition of a ventilated handguard bayonet lug for the U.S. M1917 bayonet, and sling swivels. The World War I vintage guns had solid frames, but takedowns were procured during World War II. More than 1 million Model 97s, as the guns were renamed in 1917, were made from 1897 until 1957. During those years, the price went from $25 to $90 for the standard model, likely a cause of its demise, as the Remington 870 cost half that. The 97 returned as a retro riot gun for the cowboy action shooters in 2001, and as a trench gun a year later from a place that the John Moses Browning would not have anticipated, China. So there's plain finish, fancy finish, Damascus barrel, and trap and pigeon guns with full choke. I believe this is a full choke.
It's a full choke, yes.
It says full choke right here.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what type of finish this would be considered. Probably
I don't know.
Probably it's kind of like browned, but I don't know if that's
they used to call them blue,
over blued or
bluing or something. Yeah.
Over the years, so I don't know if the silvery part down here.
I think it's just wear.
It's been worn, and if this is more the original.
I think that's probably the case. Yeah.
So 1914.
Yep, that one's made in 1914. It's a great gun. I loved shooting it.
Well, and so you probably would have shot it more.
No, I shot it a lot.
When you were 15, 16, 17? Or was it post-marriage?
Yeah, it was post-marriage that I got that gun, yeah. It was when we moved back up here and I started hunting ducks out in the duck marsh that I used that gun, yeah. So... I mean,
but that was before I was born, though.
Yeah, that was before you was born.
Or when you got married,
a young
before
kid.
I was born. So you probably living at like Uncle Kent's house and would take it out to the duck marshes.
Oh yeah, out to Ogden Bay and Farmington Bay, different places to shoot. So.
Yeah, and it would reach out there.
Oh, it would really reach.
I remember you telling me about a gun that would reach when you out for ducks and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You talked about a gun that you'd shoot at things that you probably wouldn't normally, and you would you'd knock things down. Is that this gun?
That's the gun, yeah.
That's the one you were talking about.
Yeah.
But then you also had that 20 gauge Ithaca.
Yeah.
And how did that gun fit into the time frame and time?
Well, that was my first shotgun. I received that as a gift, I think a Christmas gift. And
so that's probably when you were more
model
15, 16.
Yeah, exactly. It was an Ithaca Model 37. And I wish I had that gun today. I traded it in for an Ithaca Model 37 12 gauge because when I was out in Price, the guys I worked with, we went together and bought a shotgun loading press, and it was 12 gauge only. And so I couldn't load 20 gauge. That was a 20 gauge gun. And so I traded it for a 12 gauge so that I could use these reloaded shells. And I've regretted that decision ever since. I would love to have that 20 gauge 30 back. It was a good shooting gun.
And that's kind of what you grew up with, because that was your first shotgun.
Yeah, that was my first shotgun. That was my first gun, period.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So now we've got this gun here. And this one we know a little bit less about, right? I
know nothing about that gun. It's a 25-20. I got it from Dad. I have no idea when he got it. I know that he did hunt deer with it, but it's not a big gun for hunting deer. The fun thing about this gun is, one, it's lever action, so it's older. It was made in 1918, so it's an older gun.
So another 4 years after the shotgun.
And the interesting thing about this is it's got an octagonal barrel, 8-sided barrel, and that's other than that, that's all I know about it. Is this very interesting? I've never shot it. It doesn't have a kick pad or anything. It's just got a metal plate on it.
Metal plate.
And where Dad got it, and whether he ever hunted with it or not, I do not know. I don't remember him telling me any stories about it. But I inherited it with these other guns, and it's a great looking gun, very interesting to look at. So.
Yeah, it's a beautiful gun, and to be able to be a part of kind of the same time frame.
Yeah, same time.
Other ones. Mm-hmm. It's still over 100 years old.
I think he said he hunted deer with it, but it was not a big caliber. It's a 25-20. It shoots a 20 caliber bullet, and it's got a little more kick to it, but not anything like a 30-30.
It looks like it's been used less.
Yeah.
Like it's
less,
not as
less wear.
worn.
It's not as popular. This gun definitely has some rust going on it.
The Winchester 2520 intermediate cartridge was developed around 1895 for the Winchester Model 1892 lever-action rifle. John Browning's 1892 lever-action rifle was a scaled-down version of his successful Model 1886. It was a more compact, lightweight, and reliable successor to the Winchester Model 1873. The original Winchester Model 1892 rifle was made for the following cartridges: the 4440, 3840, 3220, 2520 in 1895, and the rare 218B. The 2520 is based on necking down the 3220 cartridge. Winchester produced over 1 million model 1892 lever-action rifles between 1892 and 1941. Approximately 90,750 of these were chambered in the 2520 caliber. The cartridge was an economical, easy-to-reload, small-game and varmint round, and was popular with farmers, trappers, and ranchers in the early 20th century. Here are a couple photos showing the comparison in size between the 2520 and a 223, the 2520 and a 3030, and just for fun, I threw in a 270.
So that's a quick history on some of the guns that my dad has. To be able to see 3 guns, to be able to handle them, that are over 100 years old, and they actually have a little bit of history. It's within our family, and they have stories behind them. I really love the story of that Peep sight. I mean, I could only imagine Earl with this buck running by and him just cocking the Peep sight versus the actual gun.
Yeah.
It's like the frustration that I could feel that through the story. And that's tied to this gun now and will always be in my mind and memory.
Yep.
And I think that's really neat. I appreciate you sharing those stories with me. When a gun is manufactured, there is certain specifications, there's a technology that comes along with that, and then you put the stories of the people behind them, and that's something that I've been able to do with Rugged Tactical, and it's been a great journey thus far, so I appreciate you sharing some of those stories with me. And even within our own family now, it becomes a part of our family and that family history as well.
Now it's your stories.
Now it's our stories, yeah. Thank you for joining us today. Remember to reload your curiosity, keep the fires burning, and we'll catch you in the next round.